Whitney and get a thumbs up from her, and you're ready to go.
Then let's start. All right, I want to welcome everyone to tonight's Centerville City Planning Commission meeting. It is January 25th, and we got 5 of us here, so that's great. I know Sean's gonna have to leave early, so when he's done with his section, he'll leave, and then it'll just be the 4 of us. So that'll be awesome. So let's start with Sean's thought.
Okay. My thought comes from a Roman god named Janus. I don't know if any of you are aware of Janus or where the month of January comes from. It's something that I was just looking into with this new year coming about. And Janus is the god, the ancient Roman god of change and beginnings and doorways and transitions. And so it got me thinking about how January is an interesting month, how I play soccer over at the rec center, and all of a sudden, we used to struggle to get numbers, and now all of a sudden we have like 25 people showing up. It's like, what is going on? Why is everyone showing up? And probably by mid-February, it'll die back, the numbers will die back down, people's New Year's resolutions will go away. But it makes me think about our last meeting and how we were making goals about what things that we want to accomplish, and also reflecting on the things that we have done as a planning commission. And this Roman god Janus, and I probably am not pronouncing it correctly, they have an image of it in Rome, and it is actually a two-faced image where one face is looking in the past and one face is looking in the future. And it makes us, I think as well, what do we need if we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it, or learn from our history. And so what things can we learn from our successes and our failures within not only the planning commission but also within our own lives. And it's just been a good opportunity for me to kind of reflect on that, and what changes do I need to make, not only here but also in my life, and then what things were good successes that will help me move forward. So it's just a good transition time that I can, and I'll let you guys know here next month how many people show up to soccer in the mornings. It'll probably be back down to the 11 or 12, and we'll be back to good. So, and then I'll also do a prayer.
If you want.
Yeah. Okay. Our Father in heaven, we are thankful for this opportunity to gather today as a planning commission, to be able to study the things that we and talk about the issues that our city has, and to be able to present and help out the citizens that are looking to build and do other projects. We are grateful for this opportunity we have to serve on this commission, and bless us with understanding and knowledge to be able to do the things that would be most beneficial to this city, and that we may be able to serve in a good capacity. And these things we pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Sean. Let's do our Pledge of Allegiance next.
Great.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so this is exciting. We have 2 public hearings today, so that's a lot of talking. And so for our first one, it's the conceptual subdivision at Chase Creek at 224 West Chase Lane. And it looks like this is an administrative decision. So you get to tell us all about it.
Sure. Whitney has been our project manager,
Oh, Whitney gets to?
so you can eliminate some of the talking by skipping to Whitney.
Okay. Skip to the Whitney.
Okay, so if the commission will remember, back in September, Mr. Mortensen asked for a rezone of the property from AL to RL. And so in October, the city council approved that, and now he's coming in for a conceptual subdivision review. So the conceptual subdivision review is just an opportunity for the applicant to come in and ask questions about his plan and how it relates to the city code. If the commission decides to accept his plan, that's in no way approving or disapproving the actual subdivision. So just keep that in mind. This subdivision will be in the northwest neighborhood of the city's general plan, and from the staff's opinion, it looks like it meets the goals and issues that are described in that plan. As for the residential standards, it meets most of them. There's a few that need a little tweaks, like the minimum width. A couple of those are just a foot or two off, so those need to be realigned. And then the buildable area and the buildable area ratio weren't shown, but those are likely to be in compliance with city code. The biggest concern that staff had was the lot width on lot 1 of Chase Lane, and let me pull up that plat. So lot 1 is this corner lot right here. Because it's a corner lot, it has 2 lot widths. So one of them is 70, and it's right here, and it meets fine. The other one, the minimum is 60, and it's only 54.8. It's unlikely that it'll meet the 60 at the buildable area, or the buildable line back here. So what staff is proposing or suggesting to the applicant is to draw a lot line between the retention pond and lot 1. So it becomes an interior lot, only has 1 minimum width that it has to worry about. Either way, however the applicant wants to address that, we are having the applicant consider a homeowners association, either way just to maintain that retention pond and any other communal areas. General requirements for all subdivisions, lots. The city code requires the lots to be at right angles, and as you can see, some of these are pretty skewed. So in our directives, we've asked the applicant to go back and see if he can make them a little bit more right angled, and if not, to give us an explanation of why he should get an exception to that city code. Streets, drainage, and utility improvements. So they've provided a utility plan. In preliminary, they'll need to provide the utility provider letters and the approval from the fire department. In addition to all the regular stuff, they're going to need a 404 permit from the state and the county because the water channels running through and around the property. They're going to need to set up some utility easements on the plat, so they'll need a 10-foot easement on all street frontages, a 7-foot easement in the rear, and then one on one side. So staff believes that the subdivision can meet all the city requirements with a couple tweaks. So we're recommending that you accept this conceptual subdivision plan. Do you have any questions?
Whitney, can I address one issue with the retention? That's probably the largest issue in the sense of trying to figure out, just a background, under the new standards we have above an acre, you need to retain and not just detain. And so we have, unless you can qualify for the exception. So we're now going to see more and more single-family subdivisions providing that facility, which has not been the traditional way of looking at single-family development. So this, starting to present this unique case. We've had a couple other subdivisions like Barris Cove and some others that were in this kind of situation. Here we have a retention pond. It's included as part of Lot 1. So in theory, Lot 1 is the owner of that property. But at the same time, they're carrying a benefit for the entire development. And how do you create something that creates the instrument of clarity for everybody owning the subdivision?
Well, and how is it not a burden to lot 1?
And yeah, and it's not a burden to Lot 1. And if you want to get in the nitty-gritty details, they're taxed on that acreage too, yet it's going to be encumbered with a facility. The other component is that we don't like remnant pieces of property unless there's a purpose to them. We don't want to just divide up and then just leave slivers and wedges in funny places. And so we like them to be incorporated into lots unless there's something that's needed. And I think what's driving the conflict here is the need to provide the on-site detention, which they can likely meet the engineering and the calculators, but what's the best way to handle that burden for Lot 1 owner that's carrying that and maintaining it? Because there'll be a recordation of a maintenance agreement, so that everybody's clear in the subdivision that that's their private system to retain. But then we have the unique issue that it's a corner lot, and the setbacks at the street frontage, you can actually, just think of the cul-de-sac, you can actually wedge down to 40 feet right at the curb line. But by the time you reach the setback, the width needs to be 60 feet on an interior lot. Well, we have this issue where you're a corner lot, and it's below, so it meets the 40-foot wedge, if you will, but can it meet the 60-foot at the setback? And that's where the data and the information is not as clear of will we be able to hit that 60-foot mark. So the one way to solve that is to make it an interior lot and leave a remnant piece with a public, purpose for them. And that way they only have the one measurement that needs to be it, which they'd be able to meet at the 25-foot setback. But then we have the whole remnant piece argument and the burden of Lot 1. So I'm not sure that even staff, we have a full resolution of that, other than it's likely an HOA of some type. It needs to spell out clarity of that maintenance, because it's going to be recorded against the development that's their facility. So we have not had a chance to have a thorough discussion with the developer about this issue, but I think that's probably one that has got to be negotiated and discussed and find the best route. And they can either make it a part of Lot 1 and meet that width, or the possibility of leaving it as a remnant parcel with a purpose, and then it becomes part of the association to maintain.
Corey, is there an alternative to an HOA that would work for that, or is HOA kind of your only way to do this?
That's a great question from how CCNRs for private subdivision work, and it's starting to get out of my expertise. I don't know if Lisa knows alternative ways to handle it. But the issue is, if it's a separate piece of property and nobody wants to maintain it, where the complaints and the enforcement starts at the city level.
Is there
Whitney
another
gets 'em.
way, instead of this retention pond, to manage the stormwater?
We would have a whole new system where the city's building above and beyond regional facilities, and then they get credits into those and pay those credits into that regional facility to do it. But we're not close to having
Is the
that.
retention portion just the 80th percentile that they have to retain?
I don't know the storm calculator, but yeah.
The state requires you to retain your 80th percentile of the storm on site.
Right.
And so that can also be done in other ways, like a rain garden in the park strip or a tree well. There's a whole variety.
There's a variety of ways
methods
to
you
handle
can-
stormwater management, but we have not adopted,
We don't allow any of those?
we haven't adopted a system
We
design.
don't have a,
City spec for that,
Okay.
is what I'm trying to say.
but could they present something else? Could they present an alternate solution?
We certainly could, and look at the ordinances, of whether the current formatting of the ordinance accommodates that, and consult with the engineer, or whether we would need to change codes to make that happen. So is there a solution? Yes. The immediacy is the issue. If the codes don't allow it, we're going through amendment process, that's putting them on a delay. And so, in technical terms, they have a right to develop the property as the current ordinance.
Sure.
But
But
yeah.
if it makes it easier to develop a different configuration here.
Yeah, and I think the developer can weigh in, the property owner, because I know along Chase Lane, they expect some private covenants to keep some aesthetics for the whole subdivision. And that's one of those, if it could work out, you could do rain gardens in some common areas, so.
Corey, do you want me to address that now or wait?
After they submit staff, they'll turn it over to you.
Oh, okay. Okay, you must be the applicant, and we will give you a chance in a second when we're done talking.
But I think that's
Hold your thought.
the unique one. You have the subtleties. The ordinance allows them to alter the perpendicular lines. You can see by the configuration, the stream channel, the shape of the property, there'll be some alterations. What staff is really trying to say is this is where people start arguing about where their fences go when they get too out of alignment, so we're
Right.
just bringing that up.
So, sorry, Corey, can we go back again to the retention for just a second? I think a couple of things. One, if we separate that with its own parcel, obviously that helps with the setback and the minimum
Lot
width. Mhm. But then it becomes property that the developer's really not making any money off of, right? Because it's part of the
Right.
HOA.
Yeah.
Second.
I mean, it depends on how you want to calculate it. It's direct value, no, but direct value to develop the property, yes. Or indirect value to develop the
Indirect,
property.
yeah, sure. It might as well be a big old road.
Right.
So, but second, I kind of personally have a problem with HOAs in a lot of ways because HOAs become another layer of government, it feels like, We
Yeah,
have the
there's
city
some-
government and now we're putting in an even more local layer of government. If we can avoid it, I think maybe it'd be kind of nice to do that. So that's why I was asking you if there's another alternative to it and.
Yeah, I think, Lisa, I don't know how you, other than HOAs and private CCNRs, how,
The HOA and the CCNRs are not ideal, but if you have any common area that needs to be maintained, that's the mechanism that we use. So I think it's better to, can you design? I think this is an interesting discussion because I believe the DRC, the Development Review Committee, said it was separate, and we said, no, add it to that
Yeah.
lot. So we've already given the developer, DRC wanted it added to the lot because who's gonna maintain all of that frontage on Chase Lane? But then their response was, well, we're already going to have, common area landscaping with an HOA to maintain that, and so it does make sense to do that as well. We can certainly get you more information from our drainage supervisor with these LID requirements. Because as Corey said, this is new for single-family home development. Is it possible to do some underground storage? We've had some commercial projects that propose that. Again, not an ideal situation because you can't see whether it's functioning or
Someone has to
not.
still maintain it.
Yeah, and so, yes, I think there's pros and cons with a lot of those, but certainly we could ask the drainage supervisor about some ideas, what's alternative
Yeah.
mechanisms that wouldn't require, but I think whatever you do, unless it's just a swale area that each owner has a lot restriction on, you likely will have some other entity to maintain it. It will also require the long-term stormwater facility maintenance agreement that we have required of some of these commercial projects that you've been seeing come through. So someone will have to sign that. And it would be easier to have that be an HOA than an individual, each lot owner signing something like that.
and I think Lisa's right. The DRC staff in general wanted to incorporate it into Lot 1 simply from the fact of there's a guarantee somebody taking care of it as a part of their landscaping, because often when you have this isolated parcel, it goes unmaintained, city ends up having to do something with it, and we have that all along the frontage road. If you look at the detention on the frontage road, a lot of that was part of the subdivision, but as development came out, associations break down, because they're only associated with that, the city ended up acquiring those parcels. So, I don't think we have a full clarity, and the developer may commit to something that works for them.
Yeah, I guess part of my thought there is that if there's already the thought or plan for an HOA to maintain common areas or something, then that's fine, whatever. But if the only reason for the HOA to exist was this retention basin, then for me, that's when I was thinking maybe there's another way to do it. And I'm not familiar with the stuff that Heidi's talking about. I don't live in her world, but maybe, some of those could be done without an association, but I don't know.
Yeah, and it may be something that you can just add to your conditions. This is conceptual subdivision. You could add a condition to work with the drainage supervisor to see what some of these, and the engineer, if there's other alternatives.
Yeah,
To
well-
avoid an HOA, because I.
In a minute, then, when we hear from the applicant, maybe we can find out some thoughts on that, HOA or no, or what, so.
Yeah, I also see a risk if you don't have an HOA and it's just part of that property, because there's no guarantee that property owner is gonna maintain it either. And then what do you do? You know,
It's their property.
Well, we were suggesting an HOA anyway,
Yeah.
regardless, because yes, it's an entire subdivision benefit. And
Right, but that's why I was asking about, even more than just an HOA, is there another option for retention? And that's kind of
Yeah,
the stuff that
that's a good
Heidi was
question.
talking about. Maybe there was other things that could retain, but I'm not familiar enough with them to know how they would work or what, so.
Any more thoughts before we hear from our applicant? Okay, so I haven't done it all in the right order.
No, you're doing great.
I sure haven't. But I think we now get to hear from the applicant, and then, after the applicant, then, the public hearing gets to, if there's anyone that has a public comment, then that public portion will come, and people who have comments can come forward and ask that. So first we get to hear from the applicant, though. Your turn.
And if you'd just introduce yourself, that'd be great.
I'm Kevin Mortensen, live 223 West, 1125 North in Centerville. There's a lot number 6, I think, so my current home's just right behind it. It's not on the plat, it's a different property, but we're gonna move, one of these lots we're gonna have for our family, and we're gonna live here also. So on the HOA, I agree, I don't like the HOA word, so I like the maintenance. We'll have a maintenance agreement. To me, that's really simple to do, it's something we're accustomed to doing in other projects, a maintenance agreement. There's other things that we need to address on our own that are separate from the retention basin. The maintenance of the stream is one of those. We have to do some annual maintenance and at least keep the stream unplugged as it comes through Chase Lane, and a little bit of cost associated with that. And we also intend to use this area at the entrance, the street, as an entrance, a nice entrance area, which we'll maintain. And so we feel like on our end, there's some things we want to do already. So a maintenance agreement to handle this is a solution we would be comfortable with and feel we could do. I personally like to see it stay part of the lot, but it's interesting, the conflict with this little size thing. I don't understand the size thing, but we would go either way. We'd put it in the lot. If it was in the lot, we'd actually maintain an easement. If it was separate, we could handle it that way, I think. We could legally handle it either way. The result, the vision, what we'll see there will pretty much be the same either way. The other question was, I think there was a question about the lot lines and why they have a turn on each one of them. We wanted to maintain, come straight off the street, which, so the first 20 feet, I believe 25 feet is straight. But to get the configurations and the size for the kind of uniform sizes for the homes, we needed to have the skew. We'll post them clearly. We know sometimes those get hit, but we can mark those. The reason they're unusual is because the street has a little bit of a curve into it, and that curve is a result of lining up, which was a big requirement, lining up with the street across on the south side of Chase Lane. So because of the curve, we can't technically follow just straight off the radius, and you get some really weird looking lots that you can't build on. And the other constraint of why the lot lines are like this is because of where the stream is. We're trying to address that stream running through the property. That's why there's that unusual angle between lots 8 and 9, kind of that little V shape. The stream will actually come through lot 9 and come out there onto lot 7 before it crosses underneath the street. So we've looked at those. We've tried several configurations, and we feel like there's some unusual property constraints lining up with the road and the curve and the stream that kind of force us, if you will, to these lot lines, which we think do work really well. That's about all I have.
So I have a question about the lot distribution here. Obviously, lots 7 and 6 are much bigger than the other. Why the uneven distribution?
Because I'm going to live in one of them, to be honest. No, if you can't really see it. On the east side, there's it's the old 66.5-foot Bamberger Railroad right-of-way used to be there. So if you take that 66.5 feet off,
they're actually almost about the same size. But that property is currently configured as a garden area. It's got a playhouse in it and a shed. I don't know if you have an aerial that shows that or not. And that's going to stay intact, actually. That will not be graded. It'll stay just like it is right now. So it becomes kind of like a second backyard on those lots.
But that piece you're describing becomes part of one of those lots? Lot 7?
It's part of lots 6, 7, and 9.
So, you know, I hear what you're saying, talking about the lot lines and whatnot, and I guess, you know, one of the concerns is 30, 50 years down the road, lot lines are not maybe quite as clear as they are today or whatever else, and we end up with disputes, arguments. Corey's successor gets phone calls about, you know, problems, this, that, and the other. And I think that's part of the reason why, well, that is part of the reason why we have that requirement to try and make those lines as neat and straight as possible, so you don't have, you know, the opportunity for issues. And can you talk to me a little bit more about, especially that zigzag with the south side of Lot 7? You said that the creek's going to come through Lot 9 at about that zigzag, or?
Yeah.
You can,
There's a pointer?
There's a pointer right there.
Then the microphone will work.
And here's a microphone.
So, yeah. Bernard Creek comes down Chase Lane to this box right here, and a lot of it goes straight back into this channel back here. But a portion of the water out of here comes, you go right to this point, about 66.5 feet over. It comes underground to here. It daylights right here, and the current path of that stream is like that. So it was, instead of having it cross two properties in a little corner of this property, it was an arbitrary decision to just have it go across the property that we're going to own, my family. So it goes basically like this.
And do you know why Bernard Creek splits there? Why doesn't it all go?
Yeah, this is the original channel here. This is the original channel.
Uh-huh.
Well, this was Bernard Creek from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
1983 floods. Then there was a flood control project, and so they made a channel to take some, in case there is a need for flood control, they can put the water back into this channel and not flood the downstream homes here.
I can answer that question.
Yeah, during the public.
Okay,
So,
okay.
I'm a homeowner
Would you introduce yourself too?
and a friend of Kevin Mortensen. I don't need the microphone.
Well,
This drop inlet box is
We need a-
guaranteed.
actually, could you take the microphone for the recording?
Yeah.
Thanks.
This drop inlet box right here is the guarantee for 3 properties that are downstream that their water rights are not infringed on. Their water rights are granted to them in their deeds that the creek will flow perpetually through their property. And we have taken, I think Corey shaking his head, it's like, he knows we're a little concerned about it. He knows about it. So, what this drop inlet does is the way it is designed is that the creek comes down the middle of the road, it hits this drop inlet box. Then the first 12 inches of water that are in the box exit the box into the creek. Everything over 12 inches exits the box down this right of way, which goes into the canal, which is behind Jenny P. Stewart, and flows to the lake. So if you were to extend this, you would see water going into the canal here, water coming down the creek through 3 lots, and then dumping back in to the canal before it gets to Fourth West. So that's what the box does. And that's why I'm here, just to make sure. But I know that Corey's on our side because he's shaking her head. And I'm not worried about Kevin either. But just that we keep that 12 inches of water coming through that box.
Good explanation. Thank you.
So, question, as it flows across Lot 9, is the idea to put it underground through that lot and then daylight again at lot 7? I mean, lot 9 has to have buildable area, right?
Yeah, actually, the answer to that is no. It already, here, I'll point again.
Oh, you're pointing
Did
back
you
there.
steal the stick?
I got this.
So the buildable area needs to be changed on this, frankly, to a little bit of a smaller rectangle like this. This part would be not here. Something we haven't addressed, but you go over here 66 and a half feet. This is where it daylights right here, and it would go to here. So this would not be included in the buildable area in the final plat or
So
whatever.
it's surface, it's a surface drainage all the way across.
Right, so we envision that it'll be all daylight. Now, it's underground right into here right now. It's in a pipe. We'll take that pipe out, so it'll stay above ground through here, go in a pipe under the stream. And frankly, we are not settled on whether this will be daylighted or piped all the way to the next neighbor's property line.
And then the question's raised, well, is that draining through there on that property line between lots 1 and 2, or is it on one property or the other?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the engineer was trying to design it right along the lot line, if I remember right, Paul was.
So
Yeah.
so the middle of the channel is
Yeah.
the lot line? Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
fun.
I could add to the complexity, and I'm trying not to because you wanted to eliminate the talking, but we have to work diligently with the county. This will be a 404 permit.
Yeah.
The issue of daylighting and piping is a significant issue under that permit. We also have the issue that the county just as soon move it to their drainage facility, but this is,
To the, in the.
but they can't
Because
because
of the other
this,
lots.
because this is required.
The water
and-
rights, okay.
And so the county's involved, but doesn't want to some extent be involved because they've installed infrastructure to handle the flow, but it has to flow. And we want to make sure we don't have private ownership within the street of that pipe going underneath. So the county should be maintaining that under the drainage agreement with them. So that 404 permit, the county input and the city engineer are going to have fun discussions to make sure that things square up. So it's solvable, but parties are going to have to come to that agreement of how to make it happen.
At what phase is it solved? I know we're all talking out of order, making Kevin nervous here, but at what point do you have to solve all those problems? Is it?
Between this and preliminary.
Between this and preliminary?
Yep.
Because these things need to be illustrated on the plat.
Yeah. This is where they'll start on their preliminary. That's where you're going to get the construction drawings, the permits. So it'll take them some time to get the 404
And is
permit.
there the possibility that they lose a lot? Because you need to have an actual easement and not give it to any specific lot owner? and have
No,
it-
on the storm drainage, it just is an easement. It won't be its own separate parcel.
Okay.
And we discussed that, and
But I
Kevin
mean,
gave,
the Barnard Creek,
Barnard Creek will still be in private ownership, and it's not navigable waters that I know of, so it'll end up being an easement.
okay, so, we're done with the applicant.
Well,
Shall
are we
we
done
ask
with the
him our
applicant?
questions? Do we have questions for the applicant? Any? I think we already-
really good. We agree with it, so.
Okay,
As the lot lines stay that way.
so I guess now we get to open the public hearing portion of our meeting. And so this item has been scheduled for a public hearing, so anyone's here who would like to come up and you can give us your name and your address and share with us your comment, if you'd like.
Sorry, can we get your name for the record?
Cody Broughton, 316 West Chase Lane.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
That's
Cody.
for the benefit of, for the record, thank you.
No, nobody really wants to talk. Okay. This is your last call. Okay, then we'll close the public hearing and then we'll get to discuss it here.
Yeah.
with the planning
So
commission.
we're actually very excited to have some new blood on our street.
Just kidding, I closed the public hearing.
Oh, I don't want to be on the record. I just want you to know, we're happy to have some new blood. It's getting really stale.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, hurry talk before he jumps in again.
Well, okay, I'll go. I'll start then. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one. There's some challenges here, but obviously, there's been a lot of thought and discussion put into it. I think that one of my thoughts is, well, we've already talked about the HOA stuff. I wish we could avoid that, but we're not, so, okay, let's figure out a way to make it work with minimum frontages. I would also encourage the applicant to, as best you can, straighten out some of those lot lines just to avoid potential future problems and questions and challenges and whatnot.
I'm interested, like, I can't see it because you can't see the building itself plus the driveway and then the boat and the RV, that they're all gonna back in those little, like, I just can't see
The
it.
zigzags?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
possibly. So, but no, other than that, I think this is the point of these types of discussions that we're having. That's the whole point of these conceptual subdivision and conceptual site plan reviews, is to get these types of questions out of the way before we get too far down the road, and I think
Yeah,
that these are
ju-
good.
just to add to you, so you have clarity of your role, it is at the recommendation of the planning commission to alter the lot lines. And that's what you'll be giving it in the final to the city council.
So, do we have that in I didn't look at the motion yet. Does that,
15.5. Are you talking about the section or which one?
no, is it in the suggested motion?
Yes, that it be addressed.
Number
6,
6.
okay, perfect then. We don't have to talk about it, thank you. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything else? Yes?
So I have thoughts, and it's going to just go back to my same thoughts about conceptuals in the first place. The definition, or the way we define our understanding of 15.2 of what a conceptual is and how it functions is loose, looser than my understanding and my thoughts on it. So I feel like when there are major issues that still haven't been addressed, then I'm more hesitant to approve a conceptual. And the cross-maintenance / HOA and the stream are major items that I am worried about. So at this point, and I'm not suggesting that the commission follow my recommendation by any set stretch, but I am disinclined to vote in favor of this conceptual because I don't think it's fully baked yet. And I don't mean fully baked for a preliminary, I mean fully baked for a conceptual.
I would agree with you, Mason. I'd like to see more of these things figured out. Because I think that when you get in and you figure out and you work with the county on this 404 permit, like, I think you're gonna have to make some significant changes to your lot lines. I think you're gonna have to make some significant changes to how you're thinking and laying this whole thing out. And I would prefer it to be figured out in conceptual than to come back with a whole new different ballgame that we don't even have any clue what's going on.
Right. Because if it was just lot lines, that would not be
That's
as big an
different.
issue.
Yeah. Yeah, problems that are unsolved, basically, that kind of big question marks. I also, looking at the buildable areas of some of these lots, I think it's gonna be very challenging to get a building on those. I look at lot 1, for example, especially if it gets trimmed back. I mean, that's a challenge to put a building on that with driveway, et cetera. And I think lot 9, when it gets shaved down, will be the same problem. I don't know how usable they are in their current layout. Or at least very, very restricted on what you could do with that. So, but that gets to the lot layout issue again.
Okay,
So just from staff to help support you, have some choices. You can simply go down the road that you don't want to accept the conceptual plan and define the reasons why, or you can table the conceptual plan and give directions on items you'd like further information on before you consider it. Or the other third one is you can approve it subject to.
Okay. What are you thinking? Anyone?
I support the idea of tabling it with some, additional requests and instruction, and that, visit it when more information is provided.
Yeah, I always prefer a table to a straight deny. I think that's rough. Like, it's got to be pretty bad to deny it, so I would rather do that than deny it.
Would you feel comfortable tabling it, Mason, and requesting the information that you and I and the commission has?
I'd be inclined to that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone want to make a tabling motion?
Mason does.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion. Let's make sure I get the language correct. I hereby make a motion for the Planning Commission to table the conceptual plan for the Chase Creek subdivision located at approximately 224 West Chase Lane with the following conditions and directives. As noted in the staff report, everything would be the same, except the following. 2A is changed to say, depict correct the lot width on lots 1 through 8, such that they comply with city ordinances, including addressing this matter more particularly on Lot 1. Condition 6 be the applicant shall realign the lot lines to comply with CMC 1505020D, full stop. With the added language, the applicant may ask for an exception and provide a narrative explanation support thereof. However, such exception is subject to the discretion afforded under city ordinance, as noted by the city council.
And the existing suggested reasons.
And yes, thank you. Along with the suggested reasons for the action, in addition to sub D that I'll add, that the stream channel issues, lot line issues, and retention management issues are a reason for the tabling.
Second.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion to table it and a second. Let's vote on it.
Okay.
We can't do that one all at once. We gotta all vote individually. We'll vote individually. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. You can go
Aye.
first. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, so that looks like that's tabled, and I'm sure staff can give you all the information you need to move forward.
May I address the applicant?
Yes.
We will send a follow-up letter that'll have the written motion to you so that you have that information. And then we'll have further discussions, I'm sure.
I think this is work that you were going to do anyway, so keep,
To an extent, yes.
yeah.
I do have I don't know if this is the right time, I have a question on the lot line configuration that I don't understand. Can I ask that, or should I just ask that later? That's-
I
I'd
think you should just ask it later.
All right.
I'd save that, yeah.
Yeah, I'd save it. Then you can get out the crayons and all the things.
All right.
It'll be good. Thank you. All right, our next item is also scheduled for a public hearing. It's the Summer Hill Lane subdivision, a PDO and zone map amendment. This is a legislative decision. So it looks like this is Symphony Homes and they're coming to make some changes. So do we get it, we get it from you, Corey?
Get the magic wand.
Okay, so just so everyone knows, I'm gonna say it and then I'll memorize it. Corey's gonna present to us some information, then we'll hear from the applicant, then we'll open the public hearing, comment period, and then discuss and et cetera. Okay, Corey.
Thank you.
We've never had a chair so animated. This is fantastic. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. I might come again.
Sweet.
This was hard to write in a report because it's kind of complicated what's going on, even though there's some simple adjustments taking place. So I thought walking through the graphic might help out a little bit and keep me straight in the presentation. So what you have is you have three applicants. You have the Fowers, you have the Millets, and you have Symphony. The Fowers and Millets have allowed Symphony to represent their applications. So we have three applications. For the Planning Commission portion of those applications, you're reviewing a PDO amendment, or Plan Development Overlay Amendment, The process to do a plan development overlay amendment is the same process to achieve it, and we're using the rezone process to change it. And the reason they did is they have a planned development, and they have a specific boundary, and they would like to alter the boundaries that were approved. So we have to go back and amend the PDO to alter those boundaries. In the petition to alter the boundaries, there's also subcategory rezones going on in some property exchanges. So you're approving a PDO amendment, but you're also, in this case, involving other properties and having those zones changed. Some to stay as part of the PDO, some to leave the PDO and be independent. So that's what you're looking at tonight. In order to facilitate a final approval, if this were to move forward, it'll take 3 plat amendments, and plat amendments are reviewed at the City Council. So what they're seeking for you is to give a recommendation on the PDO and the rezones, then they will couple that recommendation with their application of the plat amendments and take it to the City Council for review and decision-making. So if that's clear, great. If it's not, I'm still confused as you are. So this hatched area on our zoning map is, you see the yellow underneath, it's residential low, and then we put a slash in that and call it PD, Plan Development, and that represents the PDO approval. So the PDO approval was that configuration, and they'd like to change that configuration. So we're back to look at it. There's 3 elements. If you look at the school district has owned property along behind this development, and you see a sliver of property. That's been owned by Symphony for quite some time, and it's about 10 or so feet, I believe they can tell you with the exact measurement. But they'd like to take that sliver that they purchased from the school district and include it into their plan development. So you see that it's currently zoned green or agricultural low, and so they'd like to absorb it into, change the boundary, absorb that into those lots on the south end of their development, and make it part of the RLPD zoning. So that's the first change. PDO boundary change, changing it from AL to RLPD.
Corey, sorry, does that go all the way to the back lot of the homes on Fourth West?
It goes from here to here.
Is it, so all of the green or not all the green?
No, just that 10
Yeah,
foot.
zoom in, there
thin
you go,
strip.
thank you.
Sorry,
Oh, just the thin strip?
just that thin
Teeny
strip.
guy.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that there was a thinner strip.
There's
Okay.
a thinner strip.
So on this plat, I'm guessing it's like this.
So that's, I don't know, I don't remember the order now, plat 1, plat 2, plat 3. I may be out of order of what's in your report. But so you'd see this sliver added to all of these lots. So that's your one change. Now, just a little bit to the west, thank you, Whitney. The second one is the Fowers piece of property. So the Fowers live here at 2144, and we've had discussion during the PDO process about the remnant piece and some of the awkward lines there. And afterwards, to the approval, the Fowers and Symphony came to an agreement of helping the Fowers out square up the property lines. And so essentially, they would like to take this area and a portion of this area and give it to the Fowers. So take it out of the PDO and put it to the RL zone for the Fowers. But the Fowers also own this portion of land. And this, if you broaden it out, you'll see that the school district sold at some point in time lot extensions, and they're recorded. Have not been rezoned, have not been gone through a city process. It was just a recorded ownership of school district property on the county records. And so what we need to do is, then they'll straighten out this line, and this area will become part of the Fowers lot. So it'll go to the RL zone. So that's changing their boundary. But this portion that's in the AL owned needs to head over in a proper process back to the Fowers with the correct zoning. So it'll go back to the RL. Well, it won't go from AL to RL. So that's reconfiguring that for the Fowers property.
And when they do that, will it make it all one lot?
It'll make it
line
all
instead of
one-
all the pieces?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, it'll combine it all into one, and the plat will then shape it to
Reflect
the,
it. Yeah, okay.
to the correct process. I did put in the report, the individuals that bought that are still on their own with what to do and go through their process to handle that. So if we zoom out a little bit and head to the northwest, we end up at the Millets property. If you can see, the Millets property is this rectangle existing home on it that they own. For the property, it's currently AL. In their minds, they'd like to keep it AL for a while because they have some agricultural rights and are using them as part of their family enjoyment. But they'd like to have access to this cul-de-sac now. So that's been something that's been going on for quite a while, trying to figure out how to do that with Symphony. Part of it is the Millets are planning into the future and figuring out a way that they could make an opportunity to divide off a lot or even a third lot sometime in the future. They haven't finalized those plans, but they're at least thinking about that. And so part of that thought pattern is to take some property and move some larger lots for Symphony. So trade some lots for Symphony here, take that out and put it back into the AL, but then take some of the RLPD and so you're making the change. Some of the Symphony's homes going to there and some of the Symphony's here is vice versa. I'm doing it the wrong order. That's the more complicated one.
So it's not gonna be a cul-de-sac, it's gonna be a road in.
No, it'll be cul-de-sac still.
Cul-de-sac with a road in.
Yeah, it will still be this cul-de-sac. Millets will just now own property to it.
Didn't you say they wanted to use it to access that property?
They want to access their property from the cul-de-sac,
So
so
is
they'll
that-
now have frontage on the cul-de-sac.
They'll have a curb cut and a driveway? Okay,
All of that.
okay.
So there's some trades going on to make that happen. So we're flipping some from RLPD to AL, and then we're taking some AL and putting it into the RLPD, and that's another boundary change. And so that's what we're doing there. What's unique here, and this is an improvement agreement. I don't know what we have left on the improvement agreement, but on our map, it's read as there's some type of recorded improvement agreement. But this is where I go into the policy of how we handle double frontage lots. If we allowed frontage to that cul-de-sac, now we have a double frontage lot. And so in checking our ordinances, the frontage road is allowed to have a double frontage lot. And there's a requirement that the frontage you use for your driveway, you still have to put the improvements in for the frontage that's backing up onto the road. Well, they have already got their access frontage. I think most of the improvements are in. The Symphony
It says
might
fulfilled.
correct it, but I think they have it in. But we have the issue of two accesses, and that's not what the ordinance wants to have, the two accesses. You also have the general plan guidance that says we don't want to have individual lots built on the frontage road with a bunch of driveways. It's a major arterial road. So we're fine with establishing a new access for multiple lots on a public road, but we just don't want individual driveways interrupting that traffic. It becomes unsafe and changes the traffic pattern. And so staff is saying, look, we've got to figure out a way to comply with our ordinances and eliminate the one drive access off the frontage road in exchange for putting a local access off a local road. My understanding to date in the application is the Millets are okay with that in the conversations that I've had in the past. And so hopefully there's not taken back in the staff report saying we need to trigger that change and eliminate that drive access if you get access to the cul-de-sac. So that's the three changes to it. Boundary change for the PDO and subcategory rezones taking place.
Sorry, Corey, before you wander off, and for my benefit, because I'm a little bit slow sometimes, we're saying, so in that cul-de-sac, on the east side of the cul-de-sac, those all still remain Symphony Homes lots that they're going to sell all the way
And then
down.
there'll be some addition property to the lots.
So, okay, we're going to carve a little bit off of the Millets, and that adds to those two lots up there.
Correct.
The west side of the cul-de-sac up there at the end, that becomes the Millets? Is that what they're?
Part of that property, so it's part of parcel A,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know, I
can't see in where there's a property boundary, but you're going to see some frontage dedicated there to the millets.
I think it's this right here.
We
parcel
can pull up
eight.
those
You want me to pull up the
proposed
plat?
plats if you'd like.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at that here. I think I'm looking at it here with Heidi. So yeah, if you could pull that up as well, Whitney, that'd be helpful.
While you're looking
And
for
then
that,
zoom in.
Yeah, zoom in on that a ton.
Yeah. For us, it was really
Yeah.
a little bit.
So what you see is this is extending.
Yes.
There's your extension.
pushes into the middle of the property.
And then you have this area becoming part of Millet's. So Millet's property along here goes to these lots. This section here goes to the Millet's.
Okay, got it.
And did you say they have to, or they're agreeing to abandon their driveway off the frontage road?
That's our take on the ordinance, is that they need to abandon that.
So Corey, are there disputes about this, or is what, all that's been explained and proposed here, is it all?
Well, you have the Millet's signed the authorization, so you see in this, so they're authorizing the Symphony to represent this in this configuration. The Fowers have also authorized Symphony to represent it according to, so as far as the property owners doing the trade, no, I'm not anticipating any disputes. I just anticipated the issue and policy of the frontage road, and Millet's are not unfamiliar with that discussion. We've talked about it multiple times. I'm just assuming under this discussion in the application process that the Millet's have, are not being taken back, that's the recommendation.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thanks, Corey.
So I have a question for Lisa, and I should have brought this up earlier. It's more administrative. I don't think that I need to recuse on this one, but Matt Anderson, who represented the Packers during the Summerhill Lane dispute, works at the firm that I now work at. But because none of this implicates any of those issues, I don't feel like it would be an issue for me to sit and vote on this. Do you have any concerns?
No, I agree, and I think if you just disclose that.
Yeah,
I
that's the
don't know if
purpose
he's
I-
still representing him, but not necessarily on these amendments.
Correct. So my firm.
If it does get
Yeah.
involved, then it might be a recusal, but at this
Exactly.
point, I don't see that necessary.
Okay. Well, it's on the record.
Well, that's good, because then we'll have 4 of us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if
I'm okay with
I
it.
know, it would have been an issue.
you recuse yourself, we're done.
Then let's just all go home. Okay, so is the applicant here? We'd love to hear from you. It's your turn. Come on up, tell us your name, all the things.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Kirk Olson. I'm with Symphony Homes. And thank you for your time tonight. Thanks, Corey, for the explanation and the presentation. Thanks to the staff for being here as well. I think Corey did an excellent job of explaining these amendments. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I think it's pretty
No,
straightforward.
it's eminently reasonable.
Yeah.
I just wish that we could do all of it, the people that are left to their own devices. It'd just be nice to clean everything. We can't, not a problem. That's dicta.
Next to Reading Elementary.
Yeah.
That's what you're speaking to, yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah,
Thanks.
okay, thank you. All right, now it's the exciting part, it's the public hearing. We got 3 people in the audience, one of you might want to speak to us. The public hearing is open. Come on if you want to talk and tell us your name. Okay, nobody wants to. So I'm going to close the public hearing, it's over. Don't talk now. You had your chance. And now we get to discuss. Okay. I personally think this is very straightforward. I kind of just want to say that I appreciate Symphony Homes compiling these all together, putting forth the work and the effort, and doing this for these residences. And I had a little bit bad feeling previously with Symphony Homes and how the things with the Packers, and it was hard. But this is great. And so I commend Symphony Homes for doing this. I think it's great. I'm in favor of it, so those are my sense.
Yeah, I think this is a good cleanup of some things, and, you know, I can't speak for the Millets and everything, but if it were me, accessing off, not on the frontage road, that would be a benefit for me. So yeah, I like that too. So it's pretty straightforward.
So I did think it was strange when you explained, I don't even know the whole history on this, but that the school district just turned over some land to the back of those properties, but it was never officially recorded or,
No, and the funny thing is the private storm drain easement now goes through all the back of those lots, and it's creating problems.
Maybe the school district knew what they were
well,
doing.
so, I mean, hopefully this helps kind of put that to rest and make it clear who owns what and, you know, resolves that. So I'm all for it. Didn't have any other concerns.
So here's a question. If it, in the future, let me back up. One of the conditions that we're proposing is that in sub 3, and this is a question for Corey, if that's okay, Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
that it shall be recorded prohibiting direct access so long as it remains a single development parcel.
That's a good question.
What happens if they subdivide? What do we do?
That's why I said so long as it remains, because you do have Cutler's property that's involved in this, and there's a potential to run the roadway in some configuration of that way. And so what we're trying to say is that if a new road comes through the Millet's property portionally or wholly, that's this recorded agreement is clarifying. It's only when you're using it just for one lot. In the future, if you choose to subdivide and establish a public road, we're not trying to prohibit that.
It kind of goes back to the general plan and the guidelines for the frontage road and how many curb cuts.
Yeah,
and
whether I
road
worded
cuts.
it good enough
No,
to
I
be
think it
lasting.
covers that. I wanted to make sure I understood the intent.
Yeah, that's the intent.
All right.
Any other thoughts? Okay, so should we make a motion?
I hereby make a motion for the planning commission to recommend approval for a planned development overlay amendment and rezonings for the Summerhill Lane subdivision, subject to items 1 through 6 in the staff report and suggested, and reasons for action A through F.
Great, I'll second it. Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded, so let's vote on it. Everybody feel good about, oh, we'll start down here, Mason.
Aye.
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 Great, that motion passed. So, good job, Symphony Homes. Gold star for you. If you have any questions, I'm sure staff can help you, but looks like you passed. So, all right, moving right along, that's the phrase I got from Kevin. It's Community Development Director's report.
Well, I may have some good news for you.
Okay,
Your tentative item, we met with the DRC last Monday, was it? Yeah, last Monday. We've had some holidays that put it on a Tuesday, and I'm always out of sync because I keep calling them Mondays. They won't be ready till probably the 22nd.
of February.
February.
So your second, is it 22nd?
Yeah.
And so you have no items tentatively ready for you on the 8th.
Oh, so should we cancel it? Can
We're
can
kind
we
of-
do that?
We're kind of hoping you do, but
Man,
I've done that before when there were no agenda items.
Does anybody, instead of canceling, just want to like come and have some geeky training on how to be a citizen planner? Or should we all just spend the night with our families?
let's do that.
Oh, man, I'd rather do the training.
All right, Mason's in.
Let's see here. Dear Mason's wife.
Yeah.
Okay, what would you like?
To paraphrase Back to the
I'm good
Future,
You're
with,
okay with canceling?
it's not my wife, it's the kids.
If a meeting is not needed, I just do not have one.
Okay, well, do I have to make a motion? Can I just cancel it?
I don't know what the
I don't think
rules
you have to
are
make
for
a motion.
canceling a
I think the
meeting.
Chair can.
I
It could be
hereby
a voice
cancel
vote.
February 8th.
So let it be written, so let it be done.
I'm sorry. Okay, so great, no meeting. We'll meet again on the 22nd.
All right.
Super.
And then I have submitted a memo to mayor and city manager on your goals requesting a common work session.
Cool.
And I don't know whether it's the same time, some ways I don't want it to be the same time, but the
Yeah.
city
Think it's
council
tomorrow.
wants to talk about the parking table,
Okay.
That's cool.
Let's
We'll do
talk
it.
about it.
so.
Fun boomerang.
Yeah.
So
Great.
so there's my report.
Thank you. Great report. All right, so now we get to look at the minutes, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so, the minutes. Do we get to bring them up? I got it. You got it? Okay. because I know we get to go by this page by page.
You can do it however you want. That's just traditionally how it's been done. But
Traditionally-
you are in charge. and-
Line 9, anybody have a problem with line 9, going once, going twice?
Should we do it?
Kevin, I don't have a problem with that. I like that. So I reviewed the minutes. I don't have any changes on page 1 or page 2 or any of the pages, but does anyone?
I did the same, I read through it, didn't have any.
It's short, it's 3 pages, so,
I just checked really quick to make sure that they had you in as the chair, not me.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
good, so-
I can see they really condensed what happened there, because in my mind, it lasted for a half hour of torture.
There was a lot of drama.
It was high drama. I mean, leave it to Centerville, high drama, we're all about it. Come on, we gotta do something to get more people involved. All right, well, let's approve them.
I hereby make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 11th, 2023.
I second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. We'll all vote together. Everybody say it.
Aye.
Super. Can we be done now?
You gotta make a motion.
I want a motion and make it to close the meeting. And end it and adjourn it
Adjourn,
and
there you
all the words that Kevin wants me to say out of order.
Finish, conclude.
Can, and anyone, all in favor?
Second.
Second, he seconds it, keeps me straight on the narrow. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great, we're done.
There we go.
Thank you for,
Good job.
thank you for joining the